Hey everyone, welcome, welcome, um, back everyone from wherever you're coming from. Um, so it's good to be back. I apologize for last week. I just kind of fell behind in life, um, and realized at the very last minute, that I was just in the middle of something that I couldn't get out of, and it was like 7 o'clock. So I was like, okay, I have to cancel, but I'm glad to see everyone back. Through through the rest of the year, um, I think that um, when I know I won't be able to do a Monday night, I'm going to plan to have a recorded teaching or a talk or something as well. So you'll get that in advance. So I do have some as the world begins to open up a little bit. I do have a few things coming up later in the summer and the fall. Okay. Anyway, welcome everyone. If you're in the room, particularly if you're new to the space, please feel free to say hello and where you're coming in from. Um, just reading through all the comments. Janice, you went to Brandon Kennedy. So Brandon Kennedy was my first meditation teacher, really. And he's quite. I haven't seen Brendan in I guess about 6 years, maybe now. 6 years, 7 years. Um, it was the last time I sat with him. It was then, but yeah, Brendan Kennedy is quite um, effortless. His teaching is very effortless in his meditation. So wonderful. Um, so yeah, again, if you're new, say hello. So good to see everyone back here tonight. Um, and so we will, again, if you would like to offer a prayer request, you can go ahead and just put that right into the chat or, just hold that prayer request as we begin. Hold the prayer request in your mind as we begin going into our practice tonight. Today, as I was, preparing to sign on for our time together tonight, I was really thinking about healing, and what healing means. I think it's so important for many of us to really figure out what does it mean when we say healing, right? I know what I mean, at this point when I say and think about healing, but what do you mean when we say healing? Um, what are some of the words that actually come up when you do this reflection on healing? Um, so really, let's start. As people come into the space, I know people still signing in. Um, think about, reflect just like a few moments on what you understand as healing. What is healing for you? How do you describe healing? And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to use words. You can think about images. I think about images sometimes, pictures, visions of what healing is. So I think about feelings. What does healing feel like? Right? And one of the things that um, I'm officially working on my next book. I just accepted a book deal and a contract, so I'm like officially writing another book, which I'm excited about. And one of the things that I'm doing for the book is really like pushing myself, right? Pushing myself in terms of when I look at some of the language that I keep using, some of the words I keep using over and over again. And I'm challenging myself to like push through that and say like, what do I really mean? You know, what do we really mean when we say, you know, certain things? Again, healing, you know, again, what does that mean when I say I'm healing or I want to be healed or I want the world to be healed? You know, some of you are saying healing means being more alive. Well, what does alive mean? You know, what is your experience of being more alive, right? Or grieving from Holly, right? What does the grieving lead to? You know, like the more we do this kind of discernment, the more we get to the heart of Medicine Buddha, you know. But the deeper we go into what we mean, you know, by these terms and what we mean by healing, the deeper we get, the more non conceptual we should be getting as well. There is a moment where language and you know, maybe image, the conception, the conceptualization of things, there's an experience where that begins to fail us. And it has to fail us, right? Because the mind is actually not conceptual, right? The mind is experience. The mind is. So the conceptual expression of the mind gets us. You know, because the conceptual mind is related to ego and the sense of self. So conception, when we frame it in terms of like openness, spacious liberation, is going to start moving us in a direction, you know, of the essence of things. But we have to know how to let go of that. So another way of saying that, like we keep talking and thinking about healing, and then we get to a place where we just become healing. We just become. So when we say even less anxiety, what is the experience of less anxiety? Now you may be saying, well, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to experience the absence of anxiety, right? But your labor in the practice, and this is, I think, in the traditional medicine Buddha, is to actually dream, begin to dream what that experience of being beyond the suffering is. There has to be an imagination here. There's something, you know, of course, this term is used quite often in the tradition. There's something that is primordial, like primordial, which I found to be very evocative, primordial. You know, when I think about the word primordial and how it's used in tantric practice, primordial is something that just is, something that's beyond what I can conceive of. It is something that is unborn, you know, but it's living. Um, Something that is beyond. You know, as we learn in this Heart Sutra, beyond, beyond. The gate, the gate mantra, gate gate, padasam gate, bodhi, soha, go beyond, beyond, right? Go to the edge of concept and then go beyond that edge. And when you get to the edge of that edge, you keep going beyond that edge, right? And you fall into the experience of the primordial, this natural, present wakefulness, like that wakefulness that has no opposites. In that primordial wakefulness, it's just primordial wakefulness. It's not, there's no such thing as not being awakened. There's just awakened. But that primordial wakefulness happens when we keep pushing through our concept of what it means to be healed or free or liberated. That primordial wakefulness is beyond the most extreme experiences of fatigue. Beyond. And again, to use language only to a certain extent, and so again, for me, it's like I can use the language and I can do the description and create to create things, but then I say then I have to move beyond that into the experience, which is only, it's a subtle, nuanced shift into experience. Right? It's going from talking about the thing to being the thing, but the thing itself is so accessible. Right? And so this is your experience trying to describe healing, and then there is the state of just being healed. There's a gap that arises in between these two experiences. This is where the deity lives, is in that gap. The deity, Medicine Buddha in this case, becomes the bridge from the concept to the experience. So this is the fundamental work that we're doing in any deity practice, really, but just particularly here in Medicine Buddha. Or we can say, we can use Tara for those of you who are Tara practitioners. There is our description of compassion, and there is compassion. And then Tara arises as the bridge that takes us from thinking about compassion into the embodiment, into being compassion. But however, Tara, like Medicine Buddha, is they take us into the experience by actually inviting us to embody the experience. The embodied experience leads us into the essence of that experience. The essence of compassion, the essence of being healed, the essence of love. If you're a Chenrezi, right? If you're a Chenrezi practitioner, which one day I'm going to teach Chenrezi in some form, I promise. But if you're a Chenrezi, taking us into love, right? The deity The deity becomes the bridge, again, between the concept and the essence, the experience. And the deity takes us into the experience. Well, the deity takes us into the experience by actually helping us to embody what this thing is that we're talking about. And then the deity takes us into the essence of everything. The essence of healing, the essence of compassion, the essence of love, the essence of reality, the essence of the mind, the essence of violence, the essence of trauma, the essence of hate is all the same essence. Like the essence of one thing is the essence of everything. And the deity again arises to navigate us through the confusion, through helping us to embody these qualities, and then points us into the essence of everything. To move there. And also part of this kind of practice means that you let go of trying to figure out everything, right? Because again, the conceptual mind points us towards liberation, but the conceptual mind isn't liberated, right? It's not liberated, but it can point us toward liberation. And sometimes we get to the point where I'm like, oh, you know, I'm confused. I don't get this. I don't know why this happened. Then that becomes a trap. It becomes a cycle that we find ourselves getting wrapped up in. And that actually, that getting wrapped up in the cycle takes us away from the experience. It's just like trauma. Trauma is a part of that cycle. Like we get we get wrapped up and lost in the trauma, and trauma becomes a cyclical cycle thing that's just kind of rotating us through these reactions and hypersensitivity and everything. We feel a loss of agency, until you actually allow trauma to have space, instead of always reacting to it, because that reactivity drives the cycle, you know. So you let go and you're like, okay, I'm just going to let this happen. And then you get back to the path, right? Which is experiencing, like to experience the state, just to experience the freedom beyond trauma, we have to actually let trauma have its place, you know. That even trauma, like anything that arises in phenomenal reality, is actually pointing us back. It's pointing us back into the essence of everything. Everything in phenomenal reality is pointing us into freedom. And we don't see that if we're lost in the reactivity and the overreactivity and the hyperreactivity, however you want to say it. But as long as you have lost agency and overreacting, like you'll never get there. Oh, okay. I lost the picture for a minute. I thought it was something was happening, but anyhow. I think so much of our practice has to be about dreaming, right? About dreaming. This is a big part of my book project is dreaming. Like, what does it mean? And very much an abolitionist, inspired kind of view of dreaming. How do you know, dream beyond the bondage? What does my life look like? What does my body look like? What does my community look like when I'm not basing everything around a capacity to limit freedom for other people? What does that look like? We talk about the carceral state in abolitionist work. Well, the carceral state are like this, kind of system of, you know, this kind of thing where we value or privilege or have this part of our world where people can be impunged, where people can be kept, right, separate. You know, as long as we have that, like, how can we even think about freedom? Particularly in the Buddhist sense, because freedom isn't just for me; it's for everyone. So if I'm free, then everyone else has to be free. You know, like even the people that I can't stand, even the people that I hate, even the people who've hurt me the most, they have to be free too. This is what we're signing up to in terms of this project. You know, it is not in the spirit of kind of this Buddhist liberation project and the Bodhisattva liberation project to to believe that there are people who deserve to be free and there are people who don't deserve to be free. That is that duality is an expression of samsara. So when we talk about all beings being free, we're talking about ourselves, we're talking about our loved ones, we're talking about the people we can't stand, we don't like, you know. Even even they deserve to be free, and that's a good thing to do in your practice as well. When you start praying about freedom and people being free, then you also want to emphasize even the people that I can't stand deserve to be free. Their freedom has nothing to do with me liking them or not. They are like me, they deserve to be free no matter how vile we think they are. No one, no matter how evil you think someone is, no one deserves the brutality of samsara. This is a sign of growth. Really, when you get to this place where you're like, oh, everyone deserves to be free, right? It's not to say, if we're talking about on a social relative level, it doesn't mean that like when we say everyone deserves to be free, it doesn't mean that everyone gets a pass to do whatever they want. Like freedom doesn't exclude accountability. Accountability is is part of, I guess, one of the tools, one of the things that we use to get free. Accountability, because accountability is a mirror that reflects back to us the ways in which we're not practicing freedom for ourselves and for others, how we're creating harm that creates obstacles for freedom. So accountability is necessary for the work of freedom, for the grander abolitionist project. Um, but that, for those of us who are new to this is a tough thing to move through when we talk about freedom and wanting everyone to be free. Like wanting everyone to be free. The social liberation, freedom, and also the ultimate liberation. So even moving back, going back into this kind of contemplation again, right? What does it mean? I'm giving you part of a definition here. So Healing is freedom. Healing is being free. Being healed is being free. You know, can we even just spend a moment wanting ourselves to be free? And actually, at this point, too, I just want to move us into our practice as well, using everything that we've been exploring and reflecting on. You know, so again, as we prepare to practice, allowing your body to come into a position that feels appropriate for you. And at the beginning here, I invite you to just begin to dedicate the merit of the practice at the very beginning by saying whatever benefit that I have experienced, am experiencing, or will experience that I just automatically, instantly, naturally dedicated to the freedom of all beings. And if you have the capacity tonight, I encourage you just to shift your attention to your breath, noticing the in breath and the out breath. Allowing the breath to deepen. So, really taking your time to move through a nice long inhale, nice long exhale. Now, as we're deepening our breath, I want us to also notice if you're with the breath right now. Again, you don't have to be with the breath. You can, shift your attention to something that feels neutral or more grounding. But if you are with the breath, noticing how as we elongate the breath, there are just experiences that we begin to uncover. As if the breath is kind of blowing away the clouds, and blowing back the veil and the covers. And we begin to see and experience so many of these thoughts and emotions that we haven't had a chance to really notice until now. Maybe there's grief that's coming up, maybe there's joy. Allowing these experiences to just be as they are and the mind. So let them just rise into the consciousness, into your consciousness, to your knowingness. And you can notice it and you can name them and say, there you go. Right? And that begins the work of not reacting so intensely to everything. Just allowing. As you allow, you begin to experience. When you experience, you can respond. But first, we have to allow. And I wonder, even in this moment, if you can practice wanting everything to be free, and particularly wanting your breath to be free, wanting thoughts and emotions and this energy of the mind to be free, right? Wanting the mind itself to be free. What does it mean to send this aspiration of freedom? We're actually saying, I want my breath to be free. I want my thoughts and my emotions to be liberated. I want my mind to be free. Or may my breath be free. May my thoughts and emotions be free. May my mind be free. We don't have to know, we don't have to have a word or a description for freedom, but we should have this intention for these things and everything to be free. I don't know what freedom is, but I want everything to be free. And this is where we can start. And again, freedom begins with accepting, with allowing. To begin to disrupt this habitual reactivity that actually keeps us from being free. And for some of us, we may begin to realize that our habitual reactivity is functional because that habitual reactivity keeps us from feeling and seeing and experiencing the things that we don't want to deal with. And this is again where the deity begins to arise. The deity is slowly beginning to rise as the bridge for us now. As we move into experiencing, as we move into allowing, that opens the space for the consciousness of the deity to awaken. In this case, the consciousness of Medicine Buddha. So as we continue in this particular practice of allowing and non-reactivity, I want to invite you to join me in the first mantra, this kind of mantra of welcome or evoking or awaking the deity. Minla Sange Kino Soha. which again means Medicine Buddha. Please think of me, please remember me, please heal me, whatever, translate Kino into whatever you need right now. We'll chant this a few times and you don't have to join. You can sit and listen. But again, this mantra begins to call this consciousness of Medicine Buddha, of Minasangye, into into the space around us and inside of us. We'll begin. Om Min La Sangye Ki No Soha. Om Min La Sangye Ki No Soha. Om Min La Sangye Ki No Soha. And if you want, I encourage you to hum it a little bit. Humming is really an important practice with mantras. So we're going to do that a few times. So, in whatever way feels appropriate, allowing Medicine Buddha to arise within your space, even arise within your heart. As we move into our main mantra tonight, Teata Bekenze, Bekenze Maha Bekenze Rasa Sumunga Te Soha. I want us to stay in this practice reflection, right, as the foundation for this work of freedom, of liberation, accepting everything, allowing everything to be there, allowing the space to awaken. Within that space, the awakening of Medicine Buddha. To keep it as non-conceptual as possible right now. This is where we really, really begin to meet the deity, is in this non-conceptual, abstract space. You don't have to know what's happening. You don't have to have a plan. You just have the intention to meet Medicine Buddha in this space that's opening between what I think healing and freedom is and what healing and freedom really are. And let Medicine Buddha take you into being free, into being healed. Even if it's just for a moment, or a split second. And as we look at all of our prayer requests that have been offered, which I'll be praying for in my practice, imagining those whom we're offering prayers for, imagining that they're being guided towards freedom as well. So I often talk about just trusting, allowing the deity. This is the basic primary work, the primary labor of allowing the deity to touch us, to hold us. And in our practice, this is where we should be spending most of our time, is in this abstract, open space of allowing the deity to touch us and then learning what that experience is. Because again, the primary experience of the deity in Tantric and well in Buddha Tantric and then in Buddhist Tantra is space. Space is the sign that the deity is arising. The deity will always be an expression of space. As we begin our mantra, allowing this experience to be or awaken in whatever way seems appropriate. Again, Teata Baconze, Maha Baconze, Rasa Sumongate, Soha. O Teata Baconze, Ma Baconze, Rasa Sumongate, Soha. 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 Teata Baconze, Ma soa. Teata umbegenze, begenze, ma begenze, laza sumungare 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 수문가르소와 제야사 베겐세 베겐세 마베겐세 라스 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 수문가르소와 So, invite you to just shift your attention to the seat, noticing the weight of the body making contact with the seat, and letting the sensation of the body and the seat really take care, ground your attention, bringing us out of abstract or non-conceptual space to something that's more concrete, tangible. Landing here, letting this groundedness take care of you. And our final aspiration before we move into Shantideva's prayer, our final aspiration again for all of us to be free, for me and everyone, all beings, even all phenomena, everything, that everything may be free. We turn our attention to Shantideva's prayer in the chat box. We'll recite this 3 times. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in this world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. May I be the nurse for all the sick beings in the world until everyone is healed, just like space and the great elements such as earth. May I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all the sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. thank you everyone for your practice tonight. Um, and we will be here Monday. I know Monday is a holiday, but what's a holiday these days? So we'll be here. Um, Thank you all so much. Please continue to check the websites, Bhumi Sparsha, and my website as well for upcoming dates, practices, and opportunities. And I think that's it. So thank you, everyone. Please be well. Please take care of yourself. Please continue to practice as well. Um, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.